I'm coming to you on this very gray day in another part of Community Synagogue. Beyond our building at 200 Forest Avenue, we as a congregation own property here in Sharon Gardens. Sharon Gardens is part of Kensico Cemetery out in Valhalla, and this cemetery plot has been a part of our community since our inception, since we came together in 1948. It's the common way of Jewish communities that as soon as they establish themselves as communities, one of the very first things they do is they buy cemetery space so that we can bury our dead, so that we can bury our loved ones. Perhaps the weather's appropriate today because it feels quite gray usually when you come out to a cemetery. And I'm here this week in particular because of this week's Torah portion. It's known as Chayei, the life of Sarah, but in fact it begins with the death of Sarah. We're told that she dies at the very old age of 127 years old. And in the Torah portion, Abraham goes to the local Hittites, the people amongst whom he is living, and says to them, sell me that cave known as Machpelah. Sell me that cave so that I might bury my dead. We're told that he bewails, he mourns over his wife Sarah, and then he does what Jews have done really throughout the centuries. He takes his loved one in an act of what is known as chesed shel emet, an act of undying love, and he buries his wife Sarah. Then in the Middle East, he buries her in a cave. As we've come to different lands, we've taken on whatever the local customs have been, and here in North America, we buried our loved ones in the ground. This place here, if you were to walk around it, it tells the story of Community Synagogue from many of our founding members who were buried down there to my left, to people who died very young sometimes, who are buried down here over to my right. It tells our story of people who founded this community, people who felt it was really important to set down roots in this little corner of the world of Rye and Rye Brook and Mamaroneck and Rhinebeck and Greenwich and White Plains, so that the Jews of this part of this little corner of the world would have a place would have a place to live, to grow as Jews, to educate their children, and ultimately to come to their eternal rest. Chayei teaches us really about many of the mourning rituals that we still do, about how we bury our dead, how we mourn for them for 7 days after they have died, and how it is important to not wait to the last minute, but really to plan ahead, because we all know we will come to this place at some time, to be able to make arrangements for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our final rest. Chayei is a glimpse into this, and it reminds us that these lands, just as the place where Sarah and Abraham and later their descendants, that these spaces ultimately for us are sacred holy spaces. At some point you might want to come out here to Sharon Gardens just to walk around, to see the names of those who built up our community, and to see how you are part of that ongoing chain of tradition. This might not be the most exciting and most uplifting video to come to you, I understand that. But the truth is, this is part of our tradition, and we must make preparations for the future wherever we are. So I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of peace, a Shabbat where you are able to look into the words of Chayei to find meaning for yourself and for your family this week, as we look to the Torah every week for meaning. Wishing you an early Shabbat Shalom.